Climate change, if not stopped, will lead to global catastrophe. We know this very well. We can't be sure exactly how quickly, but we know it will. The growing number of extreme weather events are tangible evidence. But really, what price are we all ready to pay today for the protection of the climate in the future? And if the price is too high for too many, are we paving the way for a new form of global political turmoil? Sounds like catch-22. Welcome to Warsaw Debate at TVP World Series. I'm Grzegorz Nawrocki and this is my co-host Małgorzata Bonikowska from the Center of International Relations.
Well, of all the international issues, climate change is probably the most international. It doesn't care about borders, states, nationalities or continents.
Just recently, a large part of Central Europe was struck by severe flooding. There's no doubt that we need to protect the climate, but how to do it without causing even more immediate harm?
Political or economic, to be precise. Strict climate policies come with side effects that many people find hard to accept, and they demonstrate about it.
You might want to save the planet, but you destroy our economies, competitiveness, or social order. That's their message. And also an easy way for populism and extremism to enter the game. Another kind of catastrophe.
So, how to undo this Gordian knot?
These dramatic pictures are still fresh in our memory. Thousands of people having lost their homes and businesses, dozens of towns and villages destroyed, and fears that it may come back sooner than anyone may think. The recent fires and floods around the world are a stark reminder of the increasing impact of climate change on our societies and countries. How did we get here? After World War II, Western Europe focused on rebuilding its war-torn economies while the United States emerged as a global superpower, significantly ramping up industrial production. At the same time, the Western world began to realize that this rapid growth was causing environmental degradation and climate change, primarily due to rising CO2 emissions. The United Nations introduced the Millennium Development Goals, followed by the Sustainable Development Goals. They emphasized both climate protection and the need for continued growth to reduce poverty and increase quality of life. However, things got worse when China joined the World Trade Organization and became the factory of the world. Other rapidly developing countries from the former Third World followed. These nations prioritized development to make their societies richer, but that comes at a price. Development requires increased energy consumption, much of it still based on coal, oil and gas. Some developing nations of Africa and Asia accuse the West of using the green narrative to limit their growth. Meanwhile, China and India, the largest consumers of energy from fossil fuels, continue to expand their coal, oil and gas usage. The US decided to undertake a massive energy transformation with its Inflation Reduction Act in 2023, but it is still the second largest emitter of CO2 after China. At the same time, Europe, burdened by high energy prices, is losing its competitive edge against Asia and America. The EU's Green Deal, a cornerstone of its environmental policy, faces harsh criticism from European farmers and businesses. And despite all the efforts, the global fight against climate change remains ineffective. Where will current climate policies lead us? Is Europe able to find a balance between the need for growth, willingness to protect the environment, and energy security?
We Europeans are ready.
Well, we might be ready in Europe, not everybody anyway, but we might. But what about the rest of the world? And I mean, why should the developing countries, developing part of the world, listen to the wealthy West who consumed energy for decades? So what's the complicated situation, Małgorzata? What's the background of it?
Absolutely right. It is really a complicated situation also because, you know, it's not only the developing countries who need energy. we all need energy. Our Western societies as well, we consume a lot of our energy. So let's just have a look at some data. Let's start with a map. Let's see how is the world today. If you compare it to what it was 150 years ago, you see that there is a change. It's warmer. It's really warmer. But why? Why it's warmer? Because we started to consume a lot of energy. When? Just see the dates. After the Second World War, not only Europe, but the whole world started to produce. The 70s, the 80s, the 90s. See, it's just skyrocketing. And where is it? It's oil, it's natural gas, it's coal dominating. So fossil fuels. And of course, this creates another problem to our societies, because suddenly we realize that because of this is one of the major factors of emission of CO2. And emission of CO2, of course, destroys our atmosphere. And you can see who is the largest producer. Of course, the largest economies. So you see China dominating, but also US. Then India, of course, large economy. Then Japan, Indonesia, but even Germany. So we are all a part of a problem, not only the developing countries. But we have to do something about it, as we are trying to do. So the largest economies try to also invest in the future. They still base mostly on fossil fuels, like European Union invests in renewables. As you can see, number 2, after, by the way, China, and then United States do the same, and others follow. But today, we still are basing on fossil fuels. The EU is around 50% of our mix. China is also around 50% of its mix. United States, 70%, still based on fossil fuels. So this is the future. Today, we have a problem. And of course, behind all these figures, don't forget, is you. It's us, it's people. It's the way how we live. It's the way what we do, how we consume energy, what we want to do with our current life.
Well, if the big players and decision makers ignore the fears of large groups of people, well, it might undermine climate policies for a start, but also jeopardize Western democracy. So the motion tonight is current climate policies will lead to global catastrophe. And let's check the arguments for both sides, for and against. And please join me in welcoming our guests tonight. And for the motion, it's Ignacy Morawski, ladies and gentlemen, Deputy Chief Editor and Head of Analysis at Puls Biznesu, a Polish daily newspaper. Welcome to the program, and please take your seat. Against the motion, Virginie Little, a pioneer of zero waste in Poland. Welcome to the program, and founder of Alter Ego Foundation. Welcome.
Thank you.
Please take either of these two seats. Andrzej Krajewski, former president of Civil Development Forum in Poland and TVP News correspondent in the US. Andrzej, welcome.
Nice meeting you.
Please take your seat. Nice of you to have joined us. And against the motion, finally, Peshang Hama Karim, environmental scientist, Vistula University, but also Al Gore's Foundation. Welcome. Kurd, hello. From Iraq, living in Poland, ladies and gentlemen. That's something. And for the summary of this debate later on, we're also joined live by Professor Dhiray Kumar Giri, Schumacher Center in New Delhi, Professor of International Politics. Welcome to the show, Professor.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Great that you spared us some time. The audience has just voted on the motion. We have counted the votes, and we've got 90% for the motion and 10% against the motion. We'll see whether this result will change after this debate. So let's start with an opening statement from each of our main speakers, and Ignacy Morawski as first. Yes, please, here's our speakers circle, and 2 minutes for this.
Thank you very much. Dear friends, every sane, intelligent and decent person accepts the fact that we need to cut greenhouse gas emissions in order to save the planet from the terrible warming. However, the question is whether the current course of climate policy is optimal. And my answer, it is not. It is not optimal, it is not effective. And I will give you 5 reasons. First, at least in Europe, we set unrealistic targets, right? So the emission targets set by the European Union are unrealistic. It creates uncertainty, it limits investments, and it limits the effectiveness of climate policy. Second argument, European policies are not coordinated. It is a total mess. So look, on the one hand, we have to increase investments, right? Everyone agrees. We have to increase investments. For example, the investment rate in the energy system has to be increased from 2% of GDP to 4%. But at the same time, the European Union imposes fiscal cuts on its member states, right? It requires fiscal deficits to be cut. It's impossible to combine these two goals. It's a total mess. The third argument, climate policy currently is uncoordinated globally. So Europe imposes strict limits on its industry, where the United States does not. So we will lose jobs in Europe. They will move to other regions of the world. But at the same time, the global emissions will not decrease. So the climate policy has to be better coordinated. Fourth argument, very important. European Union policy is not technology neutral, and it should be. So European Union tries to impose certain technologies, like, for example, electric cars, or it was up until recently against nuclear energy, right? So we need to be technology neutral in order for the market to experiment. And the fifth argument, we have to appreciate economic growth. There will be no climate effective policy without economic growth. Why?
Thank you very much, Ignacy.
We have to decrease the inputs.
Keep this argument for the rest of our discussion. Thank you very much. 2 minutes is over.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Ignacy Morawski. All right, against the motion now, ladies and gentlemen, Virginie Little. There you go.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, scientists have been warning us about climate change, its causes, human activities, and its consequences since the 1980s. Intergovernmental panel on climate change have worked on 5 different climate change scenarios, depending on our social and economical path. Today, to stay under the crucial global warming level of 1.5 degrees by the end of this century, we absolutely need to reduce by 2030 our greenhouse gases emission annually by 7%. Today, these emissions are still growing by 1.5%. Today, we are on a path of reaching over 3 degrees global warming by the end of this century. This will make our planet, some parts of our planet, not uninhabitable, and will create a biodiversity collapse, which is already ongoing. Scientists have been warning us about what we have to do. We know what we have to do. We know it's not enough. And our motion today, our thesis today, mention global catastrophe, which is absolutely right. Scientists mention that global warming, as we are on the path of over 3 degrees, will lead to biodiversity collapse, will have huge impact on the environment, on freshwater resources, and agricultural yield productivity. Therefore, this will create famines and climate refugees and more armed conflict. So definitively, we are talking about a global catastrophe and not just a climate catastrophe. This has huge impact on everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Virginie. And our arguments for the motion from Andrzej Krajewski.
Being the oldest among this people, I will try to be the closest to the earth. So, it's obvious for me, and I hope it's obvious for you as well, that to deny climate change, you have to be blind, you have to be deaf, and you have to be stupid. But if you deny that people are used to live how they were living for a long time, that they have their beliefs, that they have their customs, you have to be also blind and deaf and irresponsible. So let me recall my experience from the time I was living in Sri Lanka. I was a guest of the NGO activist who was showing me the houses donated to Sri Lanka by Norwegian relief agency. I noticed in these houses, prefabricated, they had a very nice shower, bathroom with shower, and a nice kitchen. And the activist told me, look, how stupid they are. Everybody knows that we are not using showers in our bathrooms. And to have kitchen inside the house, it stinks, there is a garbage, it doesn't make sense. The kitchen should be outside, in separate place. Of course, not everybody knew that. At least those donors didn't know it. So I think it is very important that whatever you do, however you are going to change the climate, however you are going to save the earth and work for the future generations, you have also remember that you have to work with people who are living now. And not only with people. In this ecological train we are in, we as European Union, sometimes America, it depends also on the result of the coming elections. The other countries should be in this train too, China, India, others. So it doesn't matter whether you shower or use a cup, but you have to think about having water and to convince people how to save this water.
Thank you very much, Andrzej Krajewski. And finally, Peshang Hama Karim, your turn.
Yeah.
For an opening speech.
We are facing a man-made disaster that we are responsible for. Why? Because I want to make my country's economy biggest, the highest among everyone. A political fight among the countries. But who suffers? You, the people, in many countries. We are responsible for it, and we need to change it. We have all the scientific basis for everything. Every scientist in the world, as my colleagues say, you should be stupid if you deny climate change, is saying that we need to act now. Okay? So the question was that, do we have proper policies according to the graphics that our colleagues showed? No, definitely not. Before burning coal, we had 200 parts per million CO2 in the atmosphere. Where are we now? 400 parts per million, doubled. What's the effect? The flood that happened in Sicily, in the southern Poland, destroyed lives of people. We are paying for it, and still we speak about investments of the country. We are paying by our life, by our land, society. Guys, come on. If we are not fighting for it with a strict, concrete policy, we cannot speak about any future of anyone in the earth. Now, the global problem is the crisis of the migration, okay? We will be having many migration in the world due to the political reasons and due to the climate issues. We need to pull out the brake emergency, and we need to listen to everyone. The decision makers should listen to the youth, because you will be the first generation that will face the devastation of the climate change. And definitely the policy that we are having today is not enough. And still we are thinking about making investments, think about it, but in a more strategic way. Shift from burning fossil fuels to the renewable energy. It's the future, future is there. So we need to be smart. We need to shift, have a fair transition for all. And my last point will be, we all should share responsibility because it's our future that will depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this. Let me start with a quote. Means to stop catastrophic global heating exist, but political courage is needed. Just my question maybe to Virginie as first. Do you think that we do have this dangerous lack of courage from politicians, from world leaders today?
Definitely. And I wonder every day where it comes from. I mean, where it comes from. No, as we said, the facts are known. Mm-hmm. The scientists have warning us. There is no doubt today about the origin of the problem, human activities.
Yes, but some policies are proposed. Some policies are on the table.
Yeah, but they are not ambitious cohort, definitively. Yeah, I think there is not a vision on the long term. That is a problem of politicians in general, and it's even more crucial when it comes to climate change.
Why do you think is that? Why do you think politicians are so cowardly, as Virginie has said?
They care about the results of the coming elections. Not in elections in 10 or 15 years. That's understandable. But on the other hand, if you look at the policy of European Union of 55...
Fit for 55 program,
Fit for 55, this is far-reaching program. This is much farther than the next elections. And as I said, you know, on small Sri Lanka example, it should not be done the way which is unified for all countries.
All the world.
Yes. We have some directions of European Union. We can adapt according to the country conditions. It's not the same to reduce carbon dioxide for 20% for Poland and for, let's say, Norway or Sweden.
I see.
You know,
we
there is a
called
difference.
Yeah, we called it Catch 2022 because it's hence the motion today. Because if we, I understand from your words, but from other sources as well, if we do not speed up climate policies, we're heading for catastrophe. That's obvious. But if we actually press too hard, if we do it too eagerly, then perhaps voters will turn against it and we'll end up in another catastrophe, a catastrophe
Political catastrophe.
Political catastrophe, social catastrophe, climate deniers will go back, will go to power, populist extremists and so forth. So how to square it? This is why we have invited you. How to square it?
Well, first, education is very important. We need to explain to the people who, every one of us needs to make an effort, and we need to have the proper laws to also induce change in productions,
yeah, but the real fact is that
business.
Whether we talk about education or not, have a look at, I don't know, yellow vests in France. If prices go up, and they will, if we go on with these policies, people will react, and that reaction will be quite blunt, as we have seen. Farmers in Poland, yellow vests in France, but there are other examples also.
Just let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Have the price went up because we are really pressing too much in climate policy?
And that's my question to you.
Do you believe in that?
I think it's a part of this.
Do you believe
Yes,
that
I do
the
believe it is
inflation
a part of
happened
this.
in
Yes.
Poland? It was because that the Polish government was pushing too much to tackle climate change?
But if we are to push the climate change policies, some prices will have to go up. Some lowering of our living standards will have to go down. We will have to accept it. The question is, are we going to accept it?
The thing is that, my dear friend, it's not related to each other. The prices are going up whether we are against the motion or with the emotion. It's a tough global economy that's going in that way. But the problem is that, think about that. You are a worker in a war store and for 12 hours in a day, and you are super tired. You are going home to sleep, okay? While you want to sleep, a fire comes in your house. Do you say that, I am so tired, I need to wash myself, take a shower, and then I will extinguish the fire? No, you will just act immediately as if you weren't working at all. We are in this situation now.
Okay, so you don't believe that climate deniers, that populists might actually make use of this situation?
They have conflict of interest. Conflict of interest with their economies that's happening in the country.
Okay, Ignacy.
I don't think that you can find many climate deniers in Europe. You can probably find them more in the United States, but not in Europe. So everyone agrees that we need to limit the emissions. The problem is in Europe that you cannot decrease emissions and save the planet without economic growth. You cannot do it. It's simply impossible, right? And this is the main thesis of the recent report by Mario Draghi, prepared for the European Commission, that we will not achieve climate goals without economic growth. And Europe lacks economic growth. This year, economic growth in Europe is 0, whereas in US it's 3%. So US is going forward with growth, and Europe is stagnating. And guess what? Over the last 10 years, the reduction in emissions in Europe and in the United States was very similar. So Europe is not growing, and it's not cutting emissions much faster than the United States. So something is wrong in European policy.
What do you think is wrong with European policy?
Well, I think we are prioritizing too much strict targets, right, which are not possible to achieve without growth. right? So we, as
So
I
it should
said,
be more flexible.
So to give you I kind of disagree with the idea that we don't have visions. We have a very strict vision in Europe to cut emissions to zero by 2050.
And that's too ambitious, is it?
No other country in the world has this target.
Is that
So
a good,
it's not
okay,
true
is
that
that a
Europe does
good
not
thing
have
or a
vision.
bad thing?
And to me, this certain targets in Europe, the direction is clear and it's desirable. Everyone agrees. But I think that targets are too rigid.
And you said they are unrealistic targets. That's what you said in your speech.
Yes, I think they're unrealistic in some perspectives. Like in the short and medium term, they are not realistic. And many entities are aware of the fact that they are not realistic. And there is huge uncertainty in terms of what targets will be changed, how the climate policy will be reversed. So companies are not investing. They are uncertain. They want to move production out of Europe. And in the end, we'll have stagnation and no targets achieved. So we need to combine climate policy with economic growth.
Okay. Who should?
But this is impossible.
Yes.
I mean, it's going over. It's going much wider than just climate change. But the problem is that GDP is actually a wrong indicator, right? We should not actually base our economies anymore on GDP, and we know that there is no way we can actually uncouple or decouple, separate growth with impact on climate and the environment. So
how else can we judge on this? How else can we measure it, if not the GDP?
I can answer to that. Yeah. So basically, we have loss and gain. We can take how much millions of zlotys did Poland lose during the flood happened in the southern Poland. You can measure that and the growth that happened in the country. So the net of that will tell you whether you are gaining or not. And we are losing so much. Just let me read for you a statement. Extreme weather disasters cost the global economy $3.28 trillion, okay, in the last decade, and increased almost $600 billion over the previous 10 years, says that the Gore race. The climate crisis could cause $25 trillion loss in the global housing market strategy by 2050, says the economist and financial indexing firm. Not me, not a person on the ground. So we have the numbers in economical saying that we are losing the battle.
Okay, Andrzej, and then Ignacy.
I want to come back to my what I said about that you have to convince people how to save water. Do this. During the previous government in Poland, there was a big show of posters. 60% of the cost of energy is what European Union is pushing on. It was not true. It was not true because it was not 60%, but much less, because they didn't include the taxes on energy. But there was another reason of why it was a lie. Because all this money which is being imposed on energy, Brussels is not taking it away from the country. No, it should be invested in Poland for saving energy. Yes, and this was not done, and this was not explained to people, and this is why they think it's because of the ecology, the prices are going up.
You talk about education, you talk about convincing people, explaining to people. Let me just bring you up another quote, this time from Eduardo Campanella and Robert Lawrence, and saying that it is unlikely that voters antagonistic to climate policies will be persuaded by rational arguments. If technologies are cheaper, green technologies are cheaper than fossil fuels, they will be adopted to save money rather than to save the planet. My question is, can we, by rational thinking, convince people to support these policies? That is the question, really.
That is a very good question. Yes, I understand. But let me give you another example. If you go around Poland, and not only, you see a lot of the field saving energy, the solar. It's not that it was imposed on people. No, they realized that this is something which will be working for them. The state was not good enough to provide
to promote it.
To promote it, yes. But people, they are not that stupid, really. They think, and I think we should rely on this.
Okay, I'm not sure. Ignacy, you wanted to say
there is too much ideology in debate about technologies. So, for example, I think that most of scientists probably not every scientist, but most of scientists accept the fact that nuclear energy is one of the most effective ways to limit greenhouse gas emissions. And up until recently, as I said, European Commission and European Union did not include nuclear energy as one of green technologies which are necessary for climate policy. For various reasons having to do with politics, with ideology. So I think that, you know, when we have openness towards technologies, if we have technological neutrality, which is an important principle of climate policy, and should be, and it is not currently in Europe. So if we have technology neutrality, if we have growth, if we have competition, then there will be technologies to cut emissions, for sure, right?
There's some optimism.
Yeah, but we cannot count on the future technologies. We have to act now. It's already too late. We are going to face, and we are facing already, climate disasters that cost a lot to the people and to the economics. So we really have the solution. The scientists, first of all, we need to stop investing in new infrastructure of energy based on fossil fuels. That is absolutely clear. No more new coal plants. And we need to phase out the fossil fuel use.
But if you stop investing, in fossil fuel infrastructure, you will very fastly hit the poorest people on Earth, right? And they will rebel. That's for sure.
They will not agree to that. That's the question.
But they will be hit by climate catastrophe.
That's a very simple political arithmetic, and it's impossible to do it like from day to day. It has to take time. And it's an ongoing process.
I'm going back to my question, how to solve this paradox? Where to find the equilibrium? Where to find the balance?
Basically, my colleagues think he's really optimistic that we will live until 2100.
You're not?
If we are going with this, I'm not sure about it. You know, just in 2023, US experienced 7 typhoons in category 5. Do you know what does that mean? It means that it will wash up an entire community with everything. Okay, you won't be having any home to live, any family to be with. Okay?
See, but the argument for voters is that it might happen in 50 or 70 years, or 50 or whatever.
Let me finish my argument.
But next year, fuel prices might go up, and that's my problem.
Yeah, but the thing is that each category 3 typhoon used to happen once in every 25 years. Now, 7 typhoons happen in just 1 year. Okay, so and it continues, and it becomes more disaster, and it threatens us. So we cannot have a smooth transition. I totally agree with what he says. It's too optimistic. So we have United Nations, they have Sustainable Development Goals. Okay.
Okay. And look. 90% of the people of the vote here, 90%, almost everybody, 90% of the people believe that it will lead this way or another. It will lead us to catastrophe. Are they realistic or are they too pessimistic?
There are two, in my opinion, there are two answers for this. One, lack of knowledge of what's really going on.
Well, that was to you, lack of knowledge.
No, it's to everyone, okay?
Okay.
So, we are not only talking about Europe here. We are talking about the world. We are under the same dome, and we are smelling the same air. So we are affecting it. Today, the poor people in the world is the first that's affected by the climate change. But believe me, tomorrow the rich people will be affected. We will be affected. You won't be having the second
generation. Well, we're being affected now,
do.
as a matter of fact, but only on a micro scale, yes.
But tomorrow you'll be affected by a macro scale. And then you cannot think about how you can maintain your, how you can grow your economy. You will only think about how should I survive, like the migrants that are leaving their lands and migrate to other places.
Sure. Right. Okay. We've got lots of young people in the audience today, and that's quite an important agenda for you, for the young people.
And we have questions also.
Do we have questions?
Yes. And I also want to stress, you know, when I follow your discussion, that let's not discuss that the climate is changing and we want to save it, because everybody agrees with that.
Obvious.
Let's find out the way how to do it in the middle, because you say that it's not enough we are doing, and you say that it's too much we are doing. So this is the dilemma we are facing. We have a question here. Please, introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Max, and I'm a 9th grader and also an attendee at Youth University. I have a question basically to every debater, and the answer space is large. if you had all power in the world, what would you do step by step to reduce climate change?
Oh, that's a big question, really. Thank you very much. Who would like to take it up?
Good question.
All right.
Who would like to have the great power? Yeah.
I can answer.
Please.
We all share responsibilities. I should start from myself. I should reduce my waste, reuse, recycle in a micro scale from myself, my family, then as an organization, then as a government. So everyone should share their responsibility.
Just a follow-up question. Does this micro scale really work?
It changed, yes. Why not? Because I'm going to give you an example from my country, Iraq, which is counted as a developing country. We used to impose to people, educate them that recycling plastic will change thing, okay? And it affected. Planting trees affects the having a clear and air and environment.
But the question was, if you have all the power and all the resources.
Basically, I will just shut down all the fossil fuel mines and change them to solar panels, wind
What would you do with
turbines.
the companies who need energy right now?
They will get energy
And
from
these people
sun.
who are working there.
Okay, they will. We have just.
But it's happening.
No, but look, you cannot build solar energy systems from day to day without fossil fuel energy, because you need energy to have resources to build those solar panels. In order to build solar panels, you need steel, right? Where do you get steel from? Right?
Well, so basically,
from steel mills, and
it's unrealistic. That's not what you're saying.
You need energy to produce steel before you set up the solar panels. So this is wishful thinking, in my opinion, to switch the energy system like in the short term from fossil fuels to green technology within like the short span. We want to do it over the next 2, 3, or 4 decades.
What would you do? Which button would you press if you had all the power? You are the president of the world. What do you do?
Well, first, what does it mean to have all the powers? If I had all the mental powers, I would invent new technologies.
But for this, we need also energy, and we need also what I think is missing here. It's because we don't want just a conflict. We just want to find a solution in between these two opposite positions. So I think what we need is to work together to find out what is the right balance. As Ignacy was mentioning, that if you put two higher goals, you cannot reach out to them. And then you end up with make this goal ridiculous, like Lisbon strategy. Remember? The European Union had it. But it wasn't done because it was not really possible to do it. So it failed. So let's think about how we can combine these two opposite statements.
So my answer, and probably it will not be accepted, but we have to accept the fact that we will not maintain global temperature below 1.5 degrees target. We will not achieve it. It's impossible. So we have to find ways, to limit disasters, to limit the effects of global warming in other scenarios. Because this scenario is already...
Let me hang on, but Virginie, which button would you press if you had all the power in the world?
I would definitively resign on every new infrastructure of fossil fuel, using fossil fuels, and I will teach or educate also about lowering our needs, our consumption. The global warming is, the emissions are coming from the richest countries, right, and the richest people in the world. So it comes from a level of living that is over what the planet can give to everybody.
Okay. Do we have any other question, maybe from this part? Yeah, please.
Good evening. My name is Anna Ostrovska, and my question is, are there any countries that have successfully protected the environment without weakening their economy? And if yes, what can we learn from them?
Thank you.
Of course, we have Norway, we have Denmark, okay, we have Netherlands. They are leaders, okay, in the term of sustainability. And as a matter of fact, we need to believe in the science and to take them as a benchmark for our things and thoughts. Globally, wind could supply worldwide electricity consumption 40 times more. So where do we get the energy from sun? And just I am quoting Kadri Simpson from the EU Energy Commissioner, stating that Putin switched off the gas. He cannot repeat it with the sun. Okay, so if I am relying on sun, if I am relying on renewable wind turbines, okay, hydropowers, then I won't be leaning on other countries. You won't be leaning on Middle East to provide you with fossil fuel. Then Middle East is obliged to find new ways of increasing their economy. So this is the way.
So Scandinavian countries as a model for the rest of the world.
But this is also a very, very important argument about security, because we have to also remember that as far as Europe is not self-sustainable as far as fossil fuels. So we are now knowing that we need our own internal resources. So sun, wind, all that. So without that, we are always dependent.
Yes.
We were dependent on Russia, we can be dependent on somebody else, but we are not able to have it at home. So for the Europeans, it's even a bigger challenge. However, let's come back to the money and to the cost and to the speed. How quickly we are able to implement all these changes without really destroying our businesses, our competitiveness, because that's another word we have to use. Draghi report you mentioned, it's about competitiveness of the European economy. How can we be competitive if we are facing this transition, meaning the prices of all the products will rise? Because
of course, we talked about
the business will put it on consumers.
All right.
And if I agree that we need to, produce more energy from solar source, right? This is true. But look, in order to produce from solar, you need to have huge investments. Resources. It's very important to understand. Resources needed for solar panels are much larger per unit of energy, are much larger than in coal-fired plants, right? And who is the largest producer of solar panels in the world?
China.
China. And what does China do with its emissions? It's increasing its emissions. In order to produce solar panels, they use fossil fuel energy. That's how it works, unfortunately, right?
It's an investment into the future.
That's why any sane policy has to be introduced gradually.
It's not a sustainable economy for China. If you have your solar panels, you have made net zero in your country, so you can produce it by yourself without leaning to China. So it's not a sustainable. We are leaning on China because of the prices, but it won't be raised for the future.
Okay, any other question from the floor? Yes, maybe from this side, if we have any on that part of the audience. If not, then yes, please.
Hello, my name is Max, and I would like to ask a question about the current state of the European energy sources, because European energy sources are very unstable because of lack of fossil fuels and current war in Ukraine. What could we do to expand our logistical supplies of the right now scarce resources to produce those green energy per solar panels or any other kind of renewable energy sources?
Sure, thank you very much. Thank you.
So I think that the nuclear power is something we have to come back to. It's obvious the Germans declared and they are resigning of the nuclear power, but France is not. We are for decades preparing to have our nuclear power. We have to understand that this technology has been changing and the safety nets for this technology are also very much improved. And we have to realize that probably, at least for some transitional period, it's necessary to rely on nuclear power as well and label it green power, not dangerous power.
Yeah. Generally, when people think about what's going to happen in the future in terms of climate, but also other social or political things, do you think people are worried that bad things are happening, or it doesn't appeal to generally to people as something that we should be scared of now?
It depends. If you think about people where the flood was in Poland, if we talk to them, probably the awareness of the climate change and of the climate catastrophe will be much higher. They were saying every 25 years we had a flood like this, but the last flood like this was in 2010, so it's only 15 years, 14 years.
That's the best kind of education, really, because you touch it, because you feel it, because it really influences your life.
Do I need to die to learn that there's climate change?
Yes.
No, but
this is the
you need to be destroyed. your home. Yes, and that's the lesson.
Yeah, we're
Perhaps
definitely
we need-
learning the hard way.
Yeah.
But why? Why?
It was
This
effective,
is the debate,
unfortunately.
okay? So just let me tell you something. In
You've got a
2023,
good collection of quotes, I see, for this.
yes, because this is
Well
a
prepared.
matter of life and death for me. It's not just a joke debate that we are doing.
No,
okay?
but look, it's theoretical for you. Perhaps
Yeah.
it's not theoretical for those people who
I
have
totally
just suffered
respect.
from the floods, of course, but from the flooding. But for us, it's all theoretical. That's my question.
It's not theoretical for me. Just let me tell you, a newborn baby in Warsaw, according to the scientific evidence, inhales 1,000 cigarettes per year from the smokes of the coal power plants. Each year, that newborn baby. That's why you will be having many diseases, cancers, and then you want to live long for it. And just coming back to the renewable energy, the question was that, where are we in Europe? Okay, in 2023, was the first year that wind generated more electricity in Europe than gas. So we have a great willingness in Europe, okay, as an overall, okay, not speaking about states separately, but we need to expand this to the global scale. So the real problem for me, like a climate activist, is that, as my colleague said, Europe pushes so much, then now Trump will be the president of the United States, and what happens?
Exactly.
The first thing, resign from Paris Agreement. Okay, so this
Which he has done already.
Yeah, he's a climate denier.
But maybe this is a problem also to us, because we are not debating here only the climate. We are debating the whole situation.
Exactly.
It's a combination.
Politics
it's like
as well.
sustainable development, sustainable growth means growth as well.
Yes.
Means also people and the climate. So I want to ask you about ESG. Do you think this is a right approach to not ESG to look for the companies to report, you know, to
And to
declare
self-limit, of course.
and self-limit, meaning, you know, the report is just an instrumental treatment of the data, but it leads towards the understanding of the business that also it has to take into consideration all these facts. But on the other side, it limits the business. So would this make sense?
It does not limit the business. It just makes the business more responsible. The businesses has to be aware of their impact on biodiversity, environment, and all the SGE, and also well-being of their employees. And it goes back to the whole supply chain. So definitely,
but it means
I think
the
it's
limitations, because if they are not fitting into this, they have to invest. They have to, you know, increase or decrease. They have to pay for it. So at the end of the day, maybe we all will pay for it, because we will be having products which are
but again, the cost of inaction is way bigger. It's between 5 to 20% of GDP. While the cost of action to reduce, to mitigate climate change would be 1%, right? So it's really, it's much better. I know it's hard because it's business as usual is much more comfortable for everybody.
Let me just, because we're running out of time slowly, so let me just see whether there's another question. Is there another question?
Yes, please.
Giulio Fanaroli, Jagellonian University. So I think somebody that everyone in the panel agrees on, right, is that climate policies that tries to tackle climate change will have costs, will have extremely high costs for the investments, for switching completely to renewable energy, etc. And one sentence that really hit me before.
Please go into the question, because we're really running out of time.
Okay, so the question is, before we heard the speaker say, these costs will hit the most vulnerable people in society the greatest. So the question is, why? And can we imagine a different economic organization under which these costs are not paid by the most?
Thank you very much. Thank you. And a pretty concise answer, if I can ask.
Well, the poor pay the price, because when energy prices increase, and energy price increase is an obvious consequence of climate policy. You cannot have climate policy without more expensive energy, because this is the incentive to invest. So poorer households have a very high share of spending on energy. So when energy prices go up, they have less resources to spend, for example, on education, on healthcare, on food, right? And the way to change that, to limit that effect, is to have probably more redistribution. Right?
Okay.
And this is probably the only way to have a politically feasible transformation.
All right, let's stop here. No matter what we think of the political decisions, the way they are implemented, obviously climate change is a fact that needs our urgent attention. Now, closing observations after this debate, discussion will be from Małgorzata Bonikowska and her guest, Professor Dheerai Kumar Giri.
Good evening. Good evening, Professor. Are you with us?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you are now in Delhi. You are talking to us from India. India, a huge economy on the growth path, the 5th largest, and you will be maybe the 3rd one. So the growth for India is the key. When you look at our debate, what is your take?
Well, in case of India, India has been able to decouple its growth from the climate issues. So one panelist was making a point that growth has to be maintained to cover the cost for climate change or to manage the climate change. So I take that point, but India has managed so far to separate the economic growth from the climate problems.
So how do you do that in India? How do you separate that?
You see, we have gone back to our traditional means of production. Mainly, the biggest emitters in India were coal, agriculture, and cattle population. You see, so we have gone back to our traditional means of agriculture, which is very climate friendly, integration of water, forest, and livestock, etc. So that going back to our traditions, which are very effective, that is helping us. And then India has also made huge investment and taken initiatives in dealing with the climate change.
And your center, I want to ask you about your center, because you are a director of Schumacher Center, which really is an action NGO. You do a lot of things in the fields with people, also in the field of sustainable development. How do you do it? What do you do in practice? How do you understand sustainability here?
I'll give you one concrete example. There was a project by Food and Agriculture Organization called Globally Important Agriculture Heritage System. And India was found to have so many of these practices, mostly in tribal areas, where the integration of these 5 things that I was telling you, which sustains the production and also the climate security. So these things, because we went on an industrialization spree and we followed a particular pattern of production, and that really caused the problem. And a panelist was saying, how do you measure the economy? By GDH. And the counter question, how else do you measure it? Look at Bhutan. They call it GDH, not GDP really. GDH is gross domestic happiness. So kind of growth mania in production also is a problem. So India,
Bhutan is a very small country of 800,000 people. They may be happy, but they are definitely not rich. And they want to grow as well. So now they have the same dilemma. I mean, how to do it without really an extensive production. And they want to keep the nature, but they want to be rich as well. You in India have the same dilemma, but you have many more people, 1,400,000,000 people. Do you think this is an asset for your country, or that's a problem?
No, the population is an asset depending on how you look at it. You know, if you look at the stomach of the people, then it is a problem. But if you look at their hands, it is an asset, because you can make them productive and they can produce for the whole world, like China at one point did in one particular way. So population is certainly an asset depending on using their productive capacity, not just consumption capacity.
Okay. And I would also stress that not only hands, but Indians have also heads.
Brains.
A lot of brains.
Yes.
ITs.
All right.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay.
Thank you for your insight.
Thank you, Professor Giri, for joining us tonight at TVP World. Now, time, ladies and gentlemen, time to take another vote here. Right. Right, so the voting is over. We do have the results, changed a bit, I must say. 61% for, as for now, and 39% against the motion. Well, we all hope to see the light at the end of this tunnel. After all, we only have one planet, and most people understand how important it is to protect it. We just need to do it wisely.
Wisely. What does it mean? Wisely. That's the dilemma. That's it for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. This was Warsaw Debate on TVP World.
For more content from the region, follow us on tvpworld.com and on our social media. See you next time. Goodbye.